Good morning to everybody as y'all are coming in. Make sure our mics are on. We are on Facebook, on Rumble, on X, on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. Hope everybody's having a great day, great start of your day, or whatever time of day it happens to be for you. If you're watching this on replay in the back end of the university, shout out to you as well. Y'all see what the topic is here today. We got several points that I want to get to. I got 6 points I want to get to, so we need to get started really quickly. So I don't want to go too far over time. I don't want to go over time at all. So actually, we just started our timer. We got 30 minutes on the clock here. Hope everybody's had a great morning. Let's get right to it. What we're going to talk about here today is the garbage that you learned in school that you must unlearn. This applies to you especially. This is especially important for those of you who are entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur, this is very, very important to you, that the things I'm going to tell you here today are things that school taught you that worked in school. Okay, so understand that when I call it garbage, I'm calling it garbage when it refers to how it's going to help you, or if it's going to help you in the real world, quote unquote, especially as an entrepreneur. But if you did these things in school, it helped you become successful. So if you catch what I'm saying here, my drift is the things that help you be successful as a student within the American educational system. So I'm talking specifically about the United States system, will not help you be successful as an entrepreneur. It actually sends you in the opposite direction. So you need to be, again, very vigilant of the things I'm going to explain here today and understand why the things that help you be successful as a student do not help you be successful as an entrepreneur. And this also applies to all of you who are professionals, who are go-getters. You're the type of person who you don't want to just let things happen to or for you, but you want to go out there and make things happen. Then everything I'm going to share here today applies to you as well. So I went to school, you went to school. Some of you are still in school. Some of you we got a pause connection on IG. I'll be back. We all have gone to some level of school. I'm assuming most of you have graduated. If you're old enough, you graduated at least from high school. Some of you went on to college and got 4-year degrees. I have a 4-year college degree. Some of you have advanced degrees from colleges. Some of you got 2-year degrees. Some of you done a little bit of college, but you didn't get a degree. Whatever it is, if you go to school, you spent 10 plus years in the system. And that 10 plus years in the system, the repetition of going through that system programs your subconscious mind in a certain way, regardless of your level of success in school. Okay, so school does give you some positive things. Okay, I'm not saying the school is all terrible. In school, you learn things like reading, writing, and arithmetic. If your parents didn't teach it, then you learned it from your teachers at school, right? That's a good thing. You learn how to respect authority, which is a good thing, because most of the time in life, you're going to be in a position where someone has authority over you, and you learn how to work within those confines. You learn how to work with other people, which is a good thing. And you learn how to structure your days in some ways. So you got to structure your day so that you can get the studying done and do your homework and go to band class or whatever the situation is. You learn how to play the game. All right. You see what produces positive outcomes, and you make your adjustments as necessary when dealing with other people. These are all positive things that can help you in life. Even if you don't agree with the process, we can agree these are all positive things. Now, at the same time, now that I'm done praising school, I'm going to tell you all the garbage that school taught you that you need to unlearn, or any of you who is in school right now, some of the garbage that school is actively teaching you that you need to unlearn. So introducing myself, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete, author of 35 books, and I'm 4 TEDx talks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game. What we do here is we extract the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world. We translate those tools over to the business and professional world to help professionals like you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and generate more results, whatever that result may be for you, whether it's making money, whether if you're an athlete, you want to win trophies, whatever it is for you that you want to generate a result in, we get you to performing at your highest level and doing so consistently. So let's get into it. Point number 1. And again, I'm going to share 6 things here today that school taught you that you must unlearn so that you can move yourself forward in the professional world. Number 1, school teaches you to be passive. This does not work in the professional world. Passivity does not work in the professional world if you want to be highly successful. Again, so this is all with respect to the goal of you being a high level performer. You can't be passive. How is school designed? Think about it when you go to school. What do they tell you to do? Well, they don't tell you, but they show you. They tell you to come in the classroom, sit down, shut up, don't make any noise, don't interrupt anybody, and wait until the teacher tells you what to think, what to believe, what to understand, what notes to take. And then when the bell rings, get out of that room, go to the next room, sit down, shut up, and they're going to do the same thing over and over again. And you do that for 8 hours a day. And then when you're done, you go home. And then tomorrow you come back and do the same thing over and over again. What it does is it conditions passivity in you. Because in school, again, and the most successful students are what? The people who do the best is sitting down, shut it up, taking notes, and then passing the test. All right, isn't that what it is? And whatever it is that's in the textbook, whatever the teacher says goes, right? That's how school works. The teacher is in charge, and whatever the teacher says goes, even though many of your teachers, especially at the collegiate level, this is a big thing. At the high school level, let's say high school and up, that you have a lot of teachers teaching subjects in which they have no real life experience. They have no real life experience doing the thing. And I have always strongly emphasized that you don't know something until you've done it. You don't really know a thing until you've done it. Teaching a subject does not mean you know it. Going to class and getting a degree in the subject does not mean that you know it. So if you go to school and you get a degree in art, that doesn't mean you know anything about art. Now, have you done any actual art? If so, that's how you know it. You don't have to go to school to do art. That's how you know it. Getting a degree in art does not mean that you know anything about art. Getting a degree in science doesn't mean you really know anything until you actually gone out there and done it. Getting a degree in business does not mean you know anything about business. And the challenge is you have a lot of professors and teachers at schools teaching subjects upon which they have no real life experience. I got another pause on IG. Got a pause. Okay. You have teachers teaching subjects upon which they have no real life experience. They're only teaching you based on what they learned in school, and they're regurgitating it to you, or what they read in the textbook, and they're regurgitating that to you, but they have no real life experience. Again, if you haven't done it, you don't know it. If you have not done it, you don't know it, and you are unqualified to teach it. The challenge with the educational system in the United States is that you have a bunch of people teaching things that they are unqualified to teach. And then the students, they learn, quote unquote, learn from those teachers, and they think they know something because they, quote unquote, took the classes, got the degree, graduated. Now they think they have knowledge, and now it's just going on and on. It's like this cycle that keeps repeating itself. A bunch of people who are teaching each other, but none of them knows anything. But then everybody thinks they know something because they went and graduated and got the degree and passed the classes. All right, this is a problem. All right, so whatever the teacher says goes when you're in school. That's teaching passivity. Whatever's in the textbook is the truth. That's also passivity. We know in the world we live in today, information is changing and being updated on a consistent basis. So by the time a textbook gets written, printed, published, and comes out, what happens? A lot of that information is outdated. The information is not even accurate anymore by the time the textbook comes out. And I'm an author. I know how long it takes to put a book out. If you go through a traditional publisher, a textbook, those textbooks are like 300 pages. You know how long it takes to write one of those books? And then how long it takes to get it published, to get it printed, and then make thousands of copies of it and ship it out to all the colleges and the schools in America. By the time that book comes out, the material was written like a year and a half ago. By the time the book comes out, the information is different. So whatever's in the book is outdated, but you pass the class by knowing the information that's in that outdated textbook. So you see how this is a perpetuated system that's teaching people things that are actually not true. And again, whatever's in the textbook is the truth. And if you know something to be true, or you believe it to be true, but it's not in the textbook, what happens? You fail the class. Okay, so the textbook says this, you say that, and you got it wrong according to the textbook, even though you might technically be right because it's not in the textbook, you fail. Right. So now you got to take the 6th grade over again. Now you failed the class. Now you got to take it all over again, because what you know to be true is different than what the textbook says is true, even if what the textbook says is nonsense. And again, you end up on the short bus if you fail enough classes. And I'll take all the questions at the end, by the way. Anybody got a question or comment, I'll take it at the end. So school is set up to tell you what it is. You are required to blindly accept what school tells you. And if you go against the grain of that, what happens? You fail. All right, you are a problem student. They send you to the principal's office, or you flunk out of class, or you flunk out of school, and they kick you out if you don't accept what they tell you is the truth. Isn't that how it works? That's not what it's supposed to do. Technically, what education is supposed to do is bring knowledge from within out, meaning the knowledge that you already understand. Is basically, a school is supposed to be self-discovery. The definition of education, what education is supposed to mean, is helping people go through a process of self-discovery. That's what education actually means. And when you hear people in the Western world talk about education, what do they mean? When you hear someone being described as they are highly educated, what does that mean? That means they graduated high school, they went to a good college, and maybe have an advanced degree. Isn't that what it means? When somebody says that this person is highly educated, what does that mean? That means they went to a really good school and they graduated and they got a degree. So that's the definition of being highly educated. That's nonsense. Education is about bringing knowledge that is already in you out of you. And that's through a process of self-discovery by people asking you the right questions and providing you insights, not telling you what it is and telling you you must accept this information that I'm giving you. That is not education. So we have the whole education system in America backwards. Our system is about, I'm going to give you information, you accept it, you prove to me that you absorbed it, and now you're educated. That's the definition of being educated. You pass all the classes, you're educated. I just got a violation warning on TikTok that says you got a violation warning for hate speech. What did I say that was hateful? This is the issue with TikTok's live. But anyway, so in the United States, as I said, you are considered educated as long as you consume the information and prove that you have absorbed it by passing a test. That's the education system here. That's the opposite of what education actually means, which is me bringing the information out of you that was already in you, or guiding you on a journey of self-discovery for you to understand things on your own, rather than me just telling you what it is and you just having to accept it because I'm the teacher or I'm the principal or I'm the professor. And because of my status, you're supposed to listen to everything I say and just accept it just because I'm the one who said it. That is not education. That's indoctrination. That's what it actually is. The educational system in the United States is indoctrination. It is not education. If you look to the root of the word education, you'll understand what it actually means and see how it's completely different than what we do over here in the USA. So the reason why you need to unlearn this is because in the real world, passivity gets you left behind. This is the first point. If in the real world, you go out and you just allow someone to tell you this is what it is, and you blindly accept it without questioning it and without challenging it and without critically thinking about, does this make sense or not? In the real world, you lose if you do that. In school, you win if you do that. So do you understand how they are completely different? School sets you up to win by doing something that in the real world will cause you to lose. This is why you have to unlearn the things that you learned in school. So it can work if you want to be a student. And if you want to, I'll give you one exception. Any of you who wants to be a college professor, you can ignore everything I'm going to say here today, because you need to actually follow the system. Because following the system will make you a successful professor. You can get a nice job and get tenure, and you can work the rest of your life. All the rest of you who want to do something other than that, all right, you need to unlearn everything the educational system teaches. Point number 2, we're talking here today about what you need to unlearn from your educational experience. Number 2, waiting for permission. This is what school teaches you to do. School teaches you to wait for permission. If you have a question, you got to raise your hand, wait till somebody calls on you, and then you ask the question, right? If you want to go to the bathroom, you got to ask for a hall pass, and then you go to the bathroom, then you got to come back and sit down and be quiet again. So in school, you need permission to do anything you want to do. You want to ask a question, you need permission. You want to go to the bathroom, you got to get permission. You want to walk around the hallways, you got to get permission. All right. You even need permission to reference something or someone who may be able to help you with the problem. If you violate this during the test, you fail. Right. So think about this in real life. Any of you who's a professional or you run a business, last time your business had a problem and you didn't have an answer, you couldn't figure it out, what'd you do? You probably consulted someone other than yourself, right? Maybe you called one of your colleagues who's also in your industry and asked them, hey, what do you think about this? Or maybe you have a coach or you're in a mastermind and you reached out to them and said, hey, here's the problem I'm dealing with. Do you have any insight on this? Can you help me out with this? And they helped you out, right? Or you went to the internet and you Googled it and Google gave you an answer of what you could do. Or you watched some YouTube videos and it gave you an answer to figure out your problem, right? Isn't that what you do when you have a problem in the real world as an adult? Okay, what happens in school if there's a problem given to you, such as on a quiz or on a test, and you don't know the answer, and then you ask the person sitting next to you to give you the answer to the question that you don't know the answer to? What happens? If the teacher sees you, what happens? You fail. You're cheating. All right. Isn't that considered cheating? In school, if you ask anyone other than yourself for help with a problem that you can't answer, that's considered cheating, and you fail, or you get kicked out of school, or you get kicked out of class. I know a guy when I was playing ball in college. This guy, his freshman year, he was taking a music class, music 101. Now, again, nonsense class that they make you take. You didn't have to take it, but you had to take one of these BS classes as a freshman. He got caught cheating on a test in music class, and they kicked him out of school. Now, in the real world, if you have a problem that you can't solve and you ask somebody for help, that's smart, right? That's the reason why we have masterminds. That's the reason why we have coaches. That's why we have the internet. That's why we have books. That's why we have conferences, so that you don't have to solve every problem by yourself. In school, the winners, the most successful students, the people with the highest grades and the valedictorians and all that, who are they? They're the people who answer all the questions by themselves. They have all the information in their head. They're the best at absorbing and regurgitating it, i.e. passing classes. And that's the reason why they get the best grades. In real life is the exact opposite. Think about that. Let me take a sip of water while you digest what I just said. In real life, the most successful people are not the ones who have all the knowledge and all the information. It might seem like that. It might seem like the most successful people, they're just smarter than everybody. That's not the case. The most successful people are the people who best utilize their talents where they are good, and then they use other people in the places where they're weak. That's what the most successful people do. Jeff Bezos does not, when you order from Amazon, Jeff Bezos, that's the guy who started Amazon, by the way, he's not putting your razors inside the little envelope to put in the mailbox. So he's not dropping your package off at UPS. He has other people doing that for him. He does what he does well, and then he gets a whole bunch of other people to do stuff that he does not do well. So it looks like he's the man because he gets a lot of the benefits because he started the company, which he should, but he's not doing everything by himself. The most successful people do not do everything on their own. But in school, you are taught that to be successful, you have to know all the information on your own. You got to regurgitate it on your own. You got to pass the test by yourself. I keep getting pause connections on IG. So yeah, last thing I said, IG, if y'all missed that, was in school, your success is based on you doing everything on your own. You being completely self-sufficient by yourself. Now, there's value to being self-sufficient. Let me be clear. There is a value in life in being self-sufficient. You got to be able to maybe start a fire where there's no fire, make things happen, especially if you want to be an entrepreneur. But at the same time, you don't have to do everything on your own. This is why businesses have staff. It's not just one person working at Amazon, it's thousands of people working there, right? You don't have to do everything on your own. But school teaches you that you have to. School teaches you to do everything on your own. And again, waiting for permission. All right. And this is what school is all about. You can see this through these first 2 points. A lot of what's taught in school, again, is the exact opposite of what you need to succeed outside of school. Moving on, point number 3. We're talking here today about the nonsense you need to unlearn from school. And by the way, you got a question or comment, put it in the comment section. I'll address it at the end. Number 3, you are taught to defer to authority. Now, again, this one has, there are times this can apply properly and times when it doesn't. In life, there are times to defer to authority. If you are driving and the cops pull you over, I would suggest that you defer to authority. Don't be stupid. If you have a boss at work and the boss tells you to do something, you don't really want to do it, but you want to keep your job, I suggest you defer to authority. Again, don't be stupid. But in school, you are taught that deferring to authority is what you need to do, just period, in order to be successful. And again, I told y'all at the beginning of this, when I started this live right here, that this is all about, I'm angling this towards entrepreneurs. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you can't defer to authority. You are the authority. You want to be an entrepreneur, you are the authority. All right. So everyone's looking at you. Everyone's depending on you to make the decisions, and you got to look at yourself to make the decisions. So depending on where you want to go in life, if you want to get traditional employment, you're going to have a boss, you're going to have a supervisor, you're going to have somebody who signs your check. You should defer to their authority. But if you want to be an entrepreneur, you become the authority the first day that you start your business. So there's no one to defer to. All right. So it's you. And again, you have to have this mindset if you want to do this thing successfully. And again, anybody questions or comments, I'll address them at the end. So there are places in life where you should defer. As I just said, if you play a sport, there's a coach. Okay, you should probably defer to the coach because they're the ones in charge. But you also got to know when to turn that off. Okay. If you plan on doing your own thing, running your own enterprise, i.e. being an entrepreneur, then you are set up for failure by what school teaches you, because school teaches you to defer to someone else every time you have a question, challenge, or problem, and to wait for somebody else to tell you what to do. As an entrepreneur, you wait for someone else to tell you what to do, you will be out of business. As an entrepreneur, if you wait for someone else to tell you what to do, as school conditions you to do, you will go out of business. This is the reason why many people who are excellent students don't become entrepreneurs. They become employees. The reason they don't become entrepreneurs is because they have gone through their entire lives deferring to authority, waiting for someone to tell them what to do, and asking for permission. Notice, if you do that in entrepreneurship, you fail. If you defer to authority in entrepreneurship, you fail. If you wait for permission as an entrepreneur, you fail. If you wait for somebody else to tell you what to do as an entrepreneur, you fail. Therefore, what helps you be a successful student makes you a failing entrepreneur. This is the reason why many successful entrepreneurs are notorious for having dropped out of school. Or even if they finished school, they were not like the best students. They were average or just okay students. They were mediocre students, even if they graduated. Because think about it. If you go through school, let's say I go through 12 years of school, kindergarten through 12th grade, then I go to a really good college and I graduate from college and then I go get some advanced degree, like a master's degree or something like that. And I have high grades all the way through. Well, by the time I get my master's degree, I'm like 25 years old. So I'm 25 years old. So for 25 years, I have shown myself that success means defer to authority, wait for someone else to tell me what to do, and ask for permission. And I've done it successfully. I was one of the best in the world at doing that for 25 years. Why would I drop all of that, this conditioning that I've had 25 years of, and go do something else like be an entrepreneur? I wouldn't do that. I'm going to go right through the system. I'm going to get me a job where I can do the same thing for the next 50 years, get paid well, and get me a house, a car, have 2 kids and a dog, and I'm good. I'm not saying it's wrong to be an employee. Okay, I'm not saying it's wrong. That's why I said clearly up front here, I'm talking to the entrepreneurs. If you want to be an entrepreneur, what allows you to be successful as a student will make you a failure in business. So you just have to decide what game you want to play. What race do you want to run? If you're not an entrepreneur, you're listening to me right now, then I'm not talking to you. Or if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, you don't want to have a side hustle or something like that, this is not for you. You can listen to it. I don't mind you listening, but I'm not angling this towards you. I'm angling towards people who want to be entrepreneurs. And this is going to make you fail if you do what good students do. Good students are passive. They wait for permission and they wait for someone else to tell them what to do. Point number 4, we're talking here today about the things that you need to unlearn that you have learned as a student or in school. I keep getting these pause connections on Instagram. We're back. All right. Number 4, learning to the test. So I know a lot of people in the educational system, people who are teachers and professors. Actually, I know a lot of them. I know people who are principals, teachers, professors, all different levels of the academic educational system. And in school, y'all remember, I don't know how they do it now, but you know how they used to have the like the aptitude tests, like the big tests. Like in Philadelphia, when I was a kid, they used to have this thing called the citywide test. And every year it'd be like 2 days of this test that we would all take. And basically the way the tests are designed, for those who know how the educational system works, I'm being very broad here, what I'm saying, but they give these tests. The state gives tests, maybe the city will give tests, and the country will give a test. Actually, it's usually the state. And all the students in the state at a certain level have to take these tests. And it's a way of the school showing how successful they are, how good the school is at teaching whatever it is that they need to teach, right? And the teachers understand and the principals understand that the better that our students do on this statewide test, the better our school looks. Because if we do really well, that means we'll get more funding from the state. That means all of us who work here are up for promotions because we look good, because the students did well on that test. And it means we just look good. We just look good in our careers. And understand that a lot of people get into a career and they stay in it their whole lives. So a teacher who has dedicated their life to get into the educational space for whatever reason, they want to look good in giving these tests. All right, this is important to them. So what do? They will teach the students in such a way such that they are ready to pass the test. So basically they teach to the test. Teaching to the test means I'm not going to teach you what you actually need to know for life. I'm going to teach you what's going to help you pass the test. Why? Because I'm incentivized for you to pass that test. The better you do on that test, the better I look. Better chance that I get a raise. Better chance that I can move up to another position and get a promotion. Better chance I can stay in my career. Because if a school keeps failing on the state test over and over again, what happens to that school? School gets shut down. The principal gets fired. The teachers are out of a job. Now they all got to go find somewhere else to work because their school got shut down because the kids aren't passing that state test. So what the teachers do, instead of teaching what you need to know for real life, and all due respect to all the teachers out there, many teachers are not qualified to teach you anything about real life because they don't know anything about it. All they know about is how to go to school, graduate, and get a job as a teacher. All right, that's what you want to do. Listen to your teachers. If you want to do something other than that, why would you listen to a teacher? What do they know? They haven't done anything but what they do. They're full-time teachers. So if you don't want to be a full-time teacher, why would you listen to a full-time teacher telling you how to be successful in life? It makes no sense. And again, no disrespect to the teachers. I know a lot of teachers, some of them even in my family, some of them best friends of mine, but all due respect to them, this is the reality. So what they do is teach to the test so that they look good and you pass the test, which again is just conditioning you even further into the system, is not getting you ready to be successful in quote unquote real life, which means when I say real life, what I mean is anything other than going through the system. That's what I mean when I say real life. So if you want to do anything other than be a teacher or work in academia, then you shouldn't listen to everything your teachers say and you shouldn't follow everything that they do because, again, they followed a certain path to get to where they are. And I'm not knocking them, but unless you want to follow that same path, why would you listen to them? As the saying goes, I'm paraphrasing it, but if you want to learn how to do a thing, you should probably learn it from someone who is doing that thing, right? So again, the teacher is a full-time teacher. It doesn't matter what subject they teach. Your history teacher is not a historian. Your art teacher is not an artist. Your business teacher is not a business person. All right. They are a teacher teaching the subject. And that's a completely different thing. And I hope y'all get that. And any of you, I mean, most of you have gone to school. You should understand this now. You just look back at your schooling. This will make a whole lot more sense to you. And their knowledge of the subject is based on the fact that they read the textbook before you did. So they know more than you because they read the textbook. But what's in the textbook? Is that accurate information? Remember, how long does it take to write a textbook? Any of you know anything about the publishing industry? Is 2 years between the time a book gets started on and the time it actually comes out. And how fast is information changing these days? So again, and this was even true back in the 90s and the 80s, but it's even more true now. So y'all got to be careful with this stuff. So these tests, the standardized tests, that's the word I was looking for. It is based on based around measuring the teachers and measuring the school more than is based on measuring the students, because the state doesn't really care about. Let me not say they don't care about the students, but the purpose of the test is to measure the teachers. It is not to measure the students. It is to measure the teachers via the students, and it's to measure the school. And this is how our schools get shut down. You ever seen a school get shut down because the state decided they're not giving that school any more money because the kids keep failing the standardized tests? That's the reason why schools get shut down. That's the only reason that happens. So the teachers understand this. And again, you got to understand who teachers are. They're humans. They're just like humans, just like you. They're adults just like you. They got families like you. They got bills just like you. And they need to pay their bills just like you. So they understand that to keep my job, you got to pass this test. So let me teach you everything that's going to be on the test so you can survive and pass, and I can survive and keep my job, rather than let me teach you something that's actually going to help you in the real world. All right, so teachers are trying to save their own asses because human beings always respond to incentives. All right, this is just a reality of human nature. You give a human being an incentive, they will respond to it. Teachers are humans. All right, so keep this all in mind. In real life, think about this, folks. Got another pause, IG connection. We're back. In real life, folks, nobody cares that you pass the test. Is this true? In real life, when you go get a job and go start your career or you go start a business, nobody cares how many tests you passed when you were in school, high school, college, middle school. Nobody cares. And for the most part, these days, I would guess, I'm not in the workforce, but any of you who's in the workforce, any of you who's been in a job interview like in the last 5 years, do your jobs ask you what your GPA was in college? Do they even ask you if you went to college? Do they even care? I don't know. I'm asking any of you who has had this experience, do they even care what school? I would only ask if I was hiring somebody, I might ask you what school you went to just as a conversation piece, but I don't care what your grades were. I don't care if you had a 3.0. I don't care. Why does it matter? If you could do the job that I'm hiring you for, I don't care if you went to school at all. I just care that you could do the job. These days, I would think, again, I don't know. Any of you who's in the workforce, you would have to tell me, do they even care what you did in school, like your performance level at school? Now, this only matters for certain jobs. It does matter. If you want to go into the medical system, yes, because you got to pass medical school. You want to go into the legal system, you got to pass law school. You want to go into academia, you got to pass and you got to get an education degree or maybe even a master's if you want to work. I think if you want to work in colleges, you got to have a master's degree. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know anything about these spaces, but some of you know, and I know people who work in colleges, they all have advanced degrees. In the real world, I may ask you what school you went to, again, just to start conversation, but it's not because I'm going to check your grades or call the college and get references. I don't give a damn. Can you do the job that I'm hiring you for? Yes or no? If so, then let's go. You could have been an 8th grade dropout. You can do the job I'm hiring you. All right. That's how the real world works. Not how again, if you want to go into one of these systems, you want to be an engineer or you want to be a professor or you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, then yes, you get good grades in school because they will check. But anything else doesn't matter. And many of the people who I work with don't do any of those things. I don't work with anyone who works in any of those spaces. So I'm assuming most of them are not attracted to the messages that I'm giving in places like this. So in the real world, they don't care. Nobody cares that you can regurgitate information from a textbook. Nobody cares. You read a book and you can remember, what got said in the book and you can spit it back out to me. So what? AI ChatGPT could tell me what's in the book. Google could tell me what's in the book. What I need you for? That's worthless in the real world. Okay. So in the real world, you got to be able to think on your feet and solve complex problems with your own thinking, not through just regurgitating what somebody else already told you. Point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is things that you need to unlearn from school. And by the way, you got a question or a comment, I'll address them all at the end. Number 5, doing the bare minimum. School conditions you to do the bare minimum. Now, actually, let me say that a different way. School incentivizes you to do the bare minimum. It doesn't condition you to do it because you could choose to go above and beyond if you want to. So, for example, I went to school, graduated from college. I was a mediocre student. My sister, on the other hand, is a year older than me, and she was a great student. She went above and beyond. She applied herself and got really good grades, and she works in the academic space. So, for example, she would not be the person I'm talking to and talking about what I'm talking about here today. I did the bare minimum because there was an incentive to do the bare minimum. I realized by the time I was probably maybe late in middle school, maybe 8th grade, 9th grade, something like that, that if I gave a bare minimum effort, I could get good enough grades to pass to the next grade and graduate. I realized that I could do that, and that's pretty much what I did. So school conditioned me with my own, with my participation to do the bare minimum because there was an incentive to do that. And again, I'm speaking on this from personal experience. I knew that if I could do enough to get a C, I was good. If I get a C, I'm good. And as they say in in the sports world, any of you ever heard a football or basketball coach say this? C's get degrees. That's what you hear coaches say to players in sports, is specifically football and basketball, because a lot of those players believe that they're going to go pro in their sport. Most of them don't go pro, but most of them believe they will. So the coaches say to them, look, if you just get a C in the class, you can stay academically eligible and you can keep playing football, keep playing basketball, which is what most athletes want to do. So whether you think that's right or wrong is not the question. Is it true? Yes, it is. So the school system is standardized for a bunch of non-standard people. This is another thing you got to get about the educational system. The reason why those tests are called standardized tests. All right, a regular student say that too. All right, I didn't know that. All right, see, I was an athlete, so I only know the athlete experience. But I'm glad that that's not a thing that's only limited to sports. So here's the thing: in schools, they have standardized tests. Think about that. The SAT. I don't know. Y'all still do the SAT? They still got the SATs. So the SATs is called this. What is it called? Scholastic Aptitude Test or the Standard Aptitude Test, whatever it is. It's a standardized test. It's one test that goes to everybody. Now, think about that. We don't all think the same way. We don't all process information the same way. We're not all interested in the same things. We're not all headed in the same direction, but we all got to take the same test and we all get measured based on that one test that, again, is designed for one type of person. So if you're not that type of person who does well on a test like that, then it makes it look like you're bad or not a good student or dumb. People might think that you're not smart because you didn't do good on the standardized test, but you're not a standard individual. And see, this is the thing about school. The educational system is designed for a certain type of person to be successful. And if you're that type of person, then you get really good grades. You do well on all the tests and you keep passing and you're at the top of the class. So someone like my sister, for example, great student, applied herself really well, achieved at a high level academically, and now she works in academia. So she did everything for that system. She did everything perfectly. Now me, I could have been that type of person if I wanted to, but I knew I didn't want to. Now, I could have done it. I could see what the process was, but I knew I didn't want to go in that direction. But there are other people out there. I remember having classmates when I was in school, people who were not dumb, but they got bad grades. You get what I'm saying? Any of you ever had a classmate, or any of you, or maybe some of you have kids who, your kid, obviously you can tell that your kid is not dumb. Your kid is smart. Your kid has intellect. They have insights. They see things in certain ways that makes you say, wow, that's interesting. But when they go to school, their grades are not that good because they just don't fit the standard that school is designed for. And therefore, when they go to school, the teachers are looking at your kid or talking to you if you're a parent, or they were looking at you if you were one of these people, or your classmate if you had a classmate who was like this. They're looking at your kid like something's wrong with them. Something's wrong with them. Something was wrong with your son. Something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with your classmate because you're not getting high grades. But again, high grades is not a reflection of intelligence. High grades is not a reflection of intelligence, because getting good grades in school, I already told you this, is a reflection of how well you absorb and regurgitate the information that is given to you. That's what school reflects. School does not reflect how smart you are. It reflects, and this is why people say book smart versus whatever you call it, street smart. What school is a reflection of is how good are you at sitting down, shutting up, listening to what the teacher says, reading the damn textbook, and then when we give you a test, you can prove that you absorbed the information. That's what school is. That's how you pass the test. Anybody questioning this? The way you pass a test in school or an exam in college is how well you could memorize and absorb whatever was in that book. And then when they hand you the piece of paper and say, prove to me that you know it, quote unquote, know it, you can put it back on the paper. If you're not good at doing that, you fail in school and you get mediocre or bad grades, or you get kicked out, or you flunk out, or they make you take a class again. And then what happens, and what kind of social stigma do you get? And that the other students in school think you're stupid because you failed the class or you had to take a grade again. And sometimes, let me be clear, I was in school long enough to know, sometimes a kid is failing in class because some of these kids just aren't that smart. I have some classmates that I went to school with. This guy just has no intelligence. This guy is not interested in learning. I dealt with a whole lot of people who were in that position. This person is seriously not interested in learning, not interested in getting any information. And it makes sense that they're failing the class. All right. There are some people who do fit that description. Let me be clear. Now, at the same time, though, I dealt with people who I could tell that they were smart. Just having conversations with them, they're smart, but they're smart in a different way. They don't learn in the way that the standardized scholastic system is designed to teach people. And if you don't learn in that way, you get this social stigma that you're dumb or something's wrong with you. and they tell your parents, they got your parents coming up to the school and you're getting kicked out of schools, and they got you on the short bus and they got you in all these remedial classes. And if your parents, and I'm calling out the parents here who are listening to this, if the parents don't do a good job of advocating for your kids, then your kid could grow up with this stigma in their mind that something is wrong with them simply because they're not learning in a normal way. Now, good thing for me, I mentioned my sister. I will tell you that my my mother works in the educational system. So again, I'm trashing the educational system. I told you, I got a lot of people who I know, like, trust, and love who work in the educational system. My mom is one of them. She works in the education system. And I'm bringing that up because if me or my sister had been bad students, like failing classes, we weren't. But if we had been, my mother would have been advocating for us. She would have been up at that school like, yo, you're not putting my kid in that class. No, you're not going to do that. She would have advocated for us. She didn't need to because she set us up with a good foundation. And my father was around as well. Let me make sure I'm mentioning that. My mom was not a single mom. But if she needed to, she would have did that. I'm bringing that up to let you parents know, as a side note here, that if you have kids and you're putting them through the educational system, you need to be advocating for your kids to make sure that the school does not railroad your child into thinking that he or she is dumb or something's wrong with them or they have a learning disorder or, God forbid, the school to prison pipeline, as they say, especially for Black and brown kids. And I have a child. My child is probably not going into the educational system. My child's not even school age yet. He's only 2 years old. But any kids I have, they're not going into the educational system. I will homeschool them because I could teach my kid about what they need to know for life better than any teacher in the world. There's no teacher in the world who could teach my son better than I can, based on what I want my son to understand. No teacher is even qualified to teach that. And that's the decision that I've made. And my child's not even school ready yet. But any of you who are sending your kid to a school in that system, you better be up there advocating for your kid. You better be going up to that school, talking to those teachers, make sure they know your name and they know your face. And they know when you walk in, like, all right, the bullshit stops. And that's just a parenting thing that I'm saying on the side. So anyway, let me continue on what I'm saying here. On point number 5, we are talking about why school has set many of you up for failure and you need to unlearn this stuff. So as I said, I'm speaking from personal experience. As a student, I learned around high school age that I could do the bare minimum and I could still get a degree. Whereas someone who did a whole bunch and went above and beyond, I could keep getting these pause connections on IG. So someone else who does more than the bare minimum and they go above and beyond, they would get the same degree that I got. And they did a whole lot more work than I did. So I said, all right, well, why don't I just coast by doing a minimum amount of work and I'll just get the degree. Again, C's get degrees. All right. Once I understood the C's get degrees, I said, all right, I'm going to get a degree with a C. It was exactly what I did. I got a degree with a C because I knew that I was going to do 2 things after school. I knew I was going to play sports first, which I did. And then I was going to become an entrepreneur second, which I did, and which I am to this very day. And I knew that nothing that was being taught to me in school could prepare me for either one. All right, none of my professors could teach me how to be a professional athlete, and none of my professors could teach me how to run a business. How can someone who has a full-time job as a teacher teach you how to be an entrepreneur? Tell me how that makes sense. Now, some exceptions. There was one teacher I had in college who was an entrepreneur. He did have a business. Don't remember what his business was, but a lot of students knew it. They would talk about it. This guy does have a business, and he would come into campus like once or twice a week. And what the fuck? I just got kicked off of TikTok. TikTok just kicked off my live access, and I don't know why. I got to put an appeal in. I have no idea what happened here. They said, so wait a minute. Everybody who's listening to me on Instagram, they just kicked me off of TikTok. They said your live access was suspended. If it was suspended by mistake, you may submit an appeal. We're constantly improving how we. So they got this automated AI system over here on TikTok. They just kicked me off of TikTok in the middle of my live. But anyway, let me keep talking to y'all on Instagram and on YouTube, Rumble, and X and Facebook. So anyway, I realized that I could do just the bare minimum here because what was I talking about before I got kicked off? This just threw me right off of my topic. Oh yeah, you want to be an entrepreneur. I had one professor in college who did have a business, and he would come into campus like once or twice a week, and he would teach classes, maybe a handful of classes. He wasn't a full-time teacher. He was an entrepreneur, and he would teach a couple classes a week, and then he would go run his business. But most of my professors, and I have a business degree, so I was in the business major. So all of the teachers who were in the business major were full-time professors. And again, there's nothing wrong with being a full-time professor. From what I hear, it's a good job. All right, it has a good amount of stability. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So how am I going to be an entrepreneur learning from someone who's a full-time employee? That doesn't make any sense. So that's when I realized in college that, okay, I'm going to do enough work to get by and graduate since I'm already here. And I'll graduate because my parents wanted me to graduate. And I needed that 4 years on the basketball court to get ready to play pro. I wasn't LeBron. Like I could go from high school to the league. So I needed that 4 years of college. I might as well stay here. Let me get the social experience of being in college. So somebody said, you're about to get 500 viewers here. Now I got it. So I don't know. This person might be, you might be juking my stats, whoever that is. Socio stylist. You might be juking my stats. You saying that. But anyway. So as I discovered that these professors were not qualified to teach me how to be an entrepreneur, again, I did enough to get by. I was still respectful and I got my degree, but I knew I was going to have to get a whole other education outside of college if I was going to become an entrepreneur, because what was being taught in school was not sufficient. And at the same time, let me be clear, I have to say this as well, that I graduated from college in 2004. So what we have now, this what we're doing right now, like me doing these videos, none of this existed in 2004. We didn't even have smartphones in 2004. So none of my professors could have predicted or was ready to teach anything like this anyway. So anyway, let me move on to point number 6 and finish this up. TikTok still has me kicked off. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I don't know. I guess TikTok's not going to let me come back on. Let me see if I can get back on TikTok because I had a bunch of stuff I was going to reply to. I saw a lot of commentary coming in on TikTok. Let me see if I can start. So they said my live access has been suspended. You can go live and join live as a guest starting from August 25th, 2024. What day is today? It's the 22nd. So they basically gave me a 3-day suspension from going live on TikTok. I have no idea why this happened. So TikTok just kicked me off of live while I was in the middle of talking about the educational system. Anyway, I will finish up here with you all on these other apps. Point number 6, school conditions you. And what we're talking about here is things you need to unlearn from what you got in school. So socio stylist, I think you're juking my stats, but all right, I'll take it anyway. Number 6, avoiding learning. School teaches you to avoid learning. Let me tell you what I mean by this. Because all of the points that are mentioned here, many students can become disillusioned with the concept of school and in turn, the concept of learning, period. See, all these points that I'm explaining, only a handful of students are like the top students, right, at school. Everybody else is in the middle and at the bottom. And as students go through 12, 13, 15 years of going to school, you may come to think, well, I don't like school. I don't like what school is about. I don't like the professors. I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't like having to wait for permission to do stuff. I don't like the passivity of it. You may come to think this, even if you can't articulate it. And because school is taught to us, it is socialized in us that school is all about learning and education, right? Is that true? School is told to us that to be in school means that's where you go to learn. That's where you go to get educated. That's where you go to get knowledge and information. I remember I was talking to this kid. He wasn't a kid. He was probably 19 several years ago. And I was asking him, we were talking about business and he was saying, well, you know, I want to go back to school first before I go into the business world. And I said, well, what do you want to go to school for? And he said, well, I want to go back to school so I can get more knowledge. I just remember him saying that phrase. I want to get more knowledge. And I didn't go back and forth with him and set him straight, but school is not a place for knowledge. School is a place for indoctrination. Those are two different things. Indoctrination is when someone puts a message or messages into you over and over and over again until you accept it blindly and will never question or challenge it. That's what indoctrination means. School is designed for indoctrination. It is not designed for education or knowledge or learning. Education, knowledge, and learning is about you figuring things out on your own, discovering them through your own process, and deciding what your knowledge is. There's no one set of knowledge. All right, I have my knowledge. You have your knowledge. We have our own insights. We have our different ways of looking at things. We can all have our own knowledge because we all know different things and we're different types of people. Now, we can't have our own truths. There's only one truth, but there is unique knowledge. Truth is not proprietary. Knowledge is proprietary. So my knowledge of things is different from your knowledge of things. School teaches you that there's only one way to be knowledgeable. And if you don't adapt to that way, something's wrong with you and then you fail. So I remember this guy saying that. But the whole point here, folks, is that many people who are not successful in school, they're not like one of the highest performers in school, may come to dislike the very concept of learning and education, period, because they were not good in school. And this is setting them up for the failure because real knowledge and real learning is not anything like school. But if you're 18 or 21 and you are a failing student for all those years, you might say, well, I don't like anything that sounds like learning. I don't like anything that sounds like education. I'll never do it again. Therefore, you never open another book the rest of your life. Therefore, you won't join a coaching program. Therefore, you won't go get real knowledge and education because you never hear someone like myself explaining how they actually set you up for failure. See, this is what happens. This is what happens with the educational system. It gets people thinking that education looks like and feels like one thing when it's actually another thing. And this is the tragedy of the educational system in America. On top of this tragedy of TikTok kicking me off the live while I was in the middle of talking about this topic. So because of the way it's presented, especially if, again, you get marked as a bad student, or people say you're unable to learn, or you're slow, or you're retarded, or any of those words. Y'all know how they say. I don't know how they do it now, but back when I was in school, that's what we would make fun of kids who were failing classes, they got put in the special education class. We make fun of them because they weren't learning the way that you were, quote unquote, supposed to learn. Like, now I understand what was happening. And I don't know what happened to those kids, but many of them end up in prison. Many of them end up hating learning. Many of them end up just not contributing members of society because they were set up to fail in their formative years. So they get uninterested in anything that sounds like learning because, again, school tells them that is one way is actually another. So let me recap my points here. Anybody got a question or comment, put it in the comment section. Good news is there will be like half as many things for me to respond to, because all the comments that were coming in on TikTok, they got lost because TikTok just kicked me off the live while I was in the middle of talking. So anyway, garbage you must unlearn from school. Number one, being passive. School teaches you to be passive. Sit down, shut up, and wait for somebody to tell you what to do. You cannot do that in the business world. Number two, waiting for permission. All right, connected to the first point. In school, you wait for the teacher or whoever's in charge to tell you what to do. This is not how it works in the real world. In the real world, you wait for permission to do something. Life will run you over and leave you behind. Number three, deferring to authority. In school, again, the teacher's the authority, the professor's the authority. In the business world, you become an entrepreneur, you are the authority. So if you don't take the lead, then again, you get left behind. Number four, learning to the test. They have standardized tests in school so the schools can get funding, people can keep their jobs, and the schools can stay open. So what teachers do is teach based on what's on the test, not based on what you actually need to know. And this is how people get miseducated by the educational system. Number five, doing the bare minimum. When you realize that all you have to do is pass these bare minimum standards and you can survive, then people get conditioned to just do the bare minimum and not give their best effort, because there's no reward to giving your best effort when you realize how the system actually works. Again, subconsciously, when you realize this, and this is exactly what happened to me. Good news for me is that I knew where I was going after that, where a lot of students do not. And number six, avoiding learning. If you're not a successful student, or you happen to be a bad student, quote unquote, you may come to be disenfranchised with the very concept of learning, period. And then you don't want to learn any more the rest of your life. This is why people don't read books. This is why people don't want to take any type of continuing education or professional development, because they've been desensitized to the concept of education based on the way school conditioned you. They poorly conditioned you and got you thinking education is one thing, was actually another thing. And again, the educational system in the Western world is not education. It is not. What education is about is to bring out from within. That's what education actually means. That means I will help you figure things out on your own through the questions that I ask and through guiding you, not through me telling you this is what it is and you have to accept it. The educational system in America is more indoctrination than it is education. They are telling you what it is. You have to accept it. And if you fail to accept it and prove that you have accepted it, you fail. And that's how it's set up. And that's why the education system in America is garbage. So, and again, that doesn't knock anybody who happens to work in the educational system, but the system is garbage in and of itself. So let me take questions or comments. Anybody got a question or comment on IG, go ahead and post it. I'll address it in 1 second. So let's go through here and see. So Socio Style, I think you juked my stats here for this live, because with the number of people that it says on here, there's not enough comments to match it. But I see the hustle that you got going on. All right, so Girls Fly, I appreciate it. I'm glad you got some eye-opening stuff in here. Yes, education means to bring out from within. That's literally what it means. It means to bring it out from within. And again, the educational system here is not that. Passivity gets you left behind. That's correct. Chris says, that's why I think I forgot what I learned from school, because the information given is indoctrination, not knowledge, but stays ingrained. Yes, exactly. So we forget a lot of stuff that we learned in school, even though we quote unquote learned it. Right? All the stuff you allegedly learned in school, most of you can't remember most of the stuff you learned in school. Right? Even though you passed 12 grades, you went to college, you passed 16 grades, but you can't remember anything. How does that make sense? Explain how that makes sense. Make you feel guilty for asking for help in the word of cheat. Right. They call it cheating in school if you ask for help. But in the business world, if you don't ask for help, you're going to fail. So again, they're setting you up for the exact opposite of what you need. Do what I do well, get help from others. That's correct. Yes, because you can't do everything on our own. We have our strengths and weaknesses. Yes, exactly. And by the way, Work on Your Game University. That's the place where you can learn how to apply this stuff that I'm talking about here. This is just an appetizer, what I'm giving y'all in these lives. But workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link is somewhere where any of you is watching this. I'm on a bunch of different platforms at once, but go to, is in my bio or is in the comments wherever you are watching this, workonyourgameuniversity.com. As an entrepreneur, I am the authority. That is correct. Let's see. Nikki Lou said Canada does that too. Yeah, so it's most of Western society, most of the Western world does it, especially North America. We absolutely do this all the time. So I said, nobody cares if you pass the test. Well, only the teachers care. The professors care. But other than that, King Co says regular students say that too. C's get degrees. Girls Five said my son did that. I was upset. Thanks for this enlightenment. Yeah, so you got to be careful when you sending your kids to the educational system because they will railroad your child if you don't know what's going on. All right, my sons will love this enlightenment. That's good. That's great. Hopefully they can listen to this. I'm considered intelligent, yet my grades were good and bad. Yes, because intelligence is not reflected in school grades. And again, that's the whole situation. So thank you for this information. Highest earners in school and a shitload of debt today. Crazy how that works. Yeah, that happens too. Chris says, because you're speaking against the system, that's why they kicked me off TikTok. Or why didn't kick me off Instagram? It's the same system. So TikTok has a weird, I get those every once in a while. Like once a week, I'm doing a live on TikTok and I'll get this notification that says there's a warning against hate speech. I'm not even talking about anything today. And they gave me a warning against hate speech. They have this automated system that listens to you and then they give you these automated warnings, which is nonsense. So somebody's reporting your live on TikTok. You shouldn't be getting flagged on every live. That's probably happening to you. Somebody probably reported me. That's probably what happened. That's a good point. DM me, sir, if you're in the live. I doubt I'm going to DM. You could DM me. I'm not going to DM you. You needed this today. Alonzo over on YouTube said, shirt and tie combination. Oh, you like this? Thank you. Company to see another brother dressed in power attire. Well, appreciate that, Alonzo. And he said, about to come to TikTok just to give you a compliment, bro. Well, I appreciate it. Well, they just kicked me off the live on TikTok. They won't let me go live. They told me I'm suspended for 3 days from going live on TikTok. So they might be about to just delete my whole TikTok account. I don't know what happened here. They just kicked me off TikTok when I was in the middle of my live. I think somebody reported me. I think whoever left that comment, I think that's what happened. I think I got reported by somebody. They didn't like what I was saying. Probably a college professor or a teacher. They didn't like what I was saying. So we'll get that cleaned up. Hopefully by tomorrow I can go live on TikTok again. And they got me a warning label on here. So I got to look at what they got on me on here on TikTok. So this provides, so they said your first violation, I'm just reading TikTok. They said you'll receive a warning for your first violation. Next violation could result in a strike. If less severe, you'll get a warning. This provides you an opportunity to better understand our community guidelines. For repeated violations, your account may face a ban. We'll notify you when you're nearing this point for any severe content violation. Your account will face an immediate ban on the first strike. So my account status, they said I got a live violation, but they haven't told me what the violation is for. I don't understand what this is for. And again, they got me banned for 3 days. I can't do live. They said violation reasons, hate speech and hateful behaviors. That's what they told me on TikTok, that I was giving hate speech and hateful behaviors. And then I did a review. So I submitted an appeal and they didn't approve it. They rejected my appeal. So my appeal on TikTok got rejected. I have no idea what I did here. But anyway, we'll clean this up. Maybe we'll clean it up. Maybe we won't. But anyway, everybody, I appreciate that. All-Star Advisor. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, we are wrapping this one up. Workonyourgameuniversity.com. Y'all want to work with me directly and get out of the matrix of these apps because you never know. Instagram might be next. YouTube might be after that. Rumble might be after that. You never know. So you don't want to get in the matrix of these apps where they control your access. So make sure y'all go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you have a way of reaching me or hearing from me directly without having to go through one of these apps because y'all saw what just happened. It did it on TikTok. Instagram might be next. All right, everybody have a great day. Work on your game. We out of here.